We make songs about it. We make movies about it. It dominates our conversations and our culture. That's money, folks. And if you can learn to make yours work for you, you're going to have a much better time. Today's guest is business owner and financial advisor, Francesca Borthwick.
Right? Have they been out for longer
like
than
last few years.
Okay.
Yeah. I like them.
that? And it's an energy drink?
Energy drink, but they say they're like healthy.
That's what they all say.
Yeah. Better than, I mean, you have the Monster, but
Yeah. I don't know what goes on in these things either. I
don't
know they're
know.
unhealthy, but when I had a Celsius, it tasted like, it's supposed to be more like a soda water, right?
No.
No? Okay, maybe that was just, maybe I had a bad one. I don't know.
Maybe it was the type you had or something.
Yeah, whatever. The way it tasted to me was not like an energy drink.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I
it's a little
wasn't-
different. A little
Yeah.
more vitamin-y, like fruity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something like that going on. But I don't like it.
I just need something to like perk me up. You
Yeah.
know, coffee doesn't really get me going at all anymore. I'm like,
I never liked coffee.
really?
Yeah. Yeah, I tried it at Dunks. I've tried it like from cafes and even like home brew. I never got into it.
Oh.
But I feel like I've always been like kind of, I wouldn't call myself a morning person, but I've never had
Yeah.
an issue like getting up
Oh
and
my
going
gosh.
in the morning.
God bless you. That's amazing.
So you feel like you need some caffeine in the
Yeah,
morning?
every morning. We got an espresso machine for our wedding, and
Nice.
it's a life changer. I have a latte every morning. I'm not spending money on lattes, which, you know, it's financially fits in the budget. But yeah, I need my coffee in the morning.
How financially responsible of you?
Well, since I've done this and been in this career, I am like so much more on top of my finances, and you know, I have a plan in place, and I feel like I have a great plan. I mean, I just got married, so we are
Congratulations.
still kind of broke, but we're getting there.
Yeah, having a plan is the first step.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, what I always say to my clients, like, how did you grow up with money? I think that starts a lot of the conversation, and I, you know, meet with people that they have an advisor, but they don't really know anything about them. So I ask my clients, how did you grow up with money? And if I were to tell you how I grew up with money, I kind of I grew up in a great family, very blessed, but I was handed a lot, and I wasn't taught the concept of money, how to save, how to use credit cards in a healthy way. So when I, you know, was in my 20s, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. College, you know, I lived in LA in my early 20s, so I did not know how to be financially responsible. So if I worked with an advisor, even, you know, right out of college, I feel like I would have been in a way better place. But I didn't know any better. So I like to ask my clients those questions in the first few minutes of meeting each other, because it kind of gets me an idea on how they feel about money, and how they grew up, and it all really intertwines together.
Do you find that there are young people who are interested in having a financial advisor and learning about how to properly use their finances to grow their wealth?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people I think everyone wants to meet with a financial advisor, but they don't know what financial advisors do. They think they're for, you know, wealthy people. They think they all charge a fee. They think it's just investments. So that's the barriers that I'm trying to break daily. I say, my little slogan is, I'm not your dad's financial advisor. So when I used to think of a financial advisor, I used to think of the guy that's helping my parents, and he's an old man and he just does investments, and it's pretty boring. So I try to make these conversations fun and relatable, and, you know, breaking that wall down, because we are talking about money, so it's scary. So yeah, I think a lot of young people want to meet with an advisor. They just don't know how. So I try to meet with people and get them in a good place before it's too late. Yeah.
That's good. And what happens when it is what is like a criteria, like what's the scenario when it is too late?
Yeah, I don't
Like,
want
how
to
do
say
people-
it's never too late.
Right.
But, you know, when someone's in their 60s and they're about to retire and they haven't really had a plan evaluated before and they think what they have through work is fine and that's it, then it could be a little hard to catch up. So I think starting these strategies younger, or, before you're even thinking about retirement, like, even in your 30s, 40s, 50s, it's better than too late, when you're about to retire and you're like, oh, I want to retire in 5 years. But, these accounts aren't what you think they're going to be because there's a lot that goes into, distributions and retirement and a lot of stuff.
People find themselves in for like a rude awakening if they're not prepared for it.
Yeah, and I think, no one talks about this. We get handed, if you work at like a 9-to-5, a corporate job, you're getting your retirement benefits and, you think that's great and you have like your insurance through work and you think you're good. But there's a lot more than just that. In that distribution phase and tax strategy, and that's what I work with my clients on. So, if you ask your boss or your HR department, they might think you're okay. But when you're really evaluating and looking at like a retirement analysis, there's a lot that comes into it more than just what you're getting handed through work. So.
What are some of the most common strategies that people use to build wealth when they come to you? Like people come to you from a career point, right? They have a job and they're working and then they're like, okay, I have this amount of savings and I'm making this amount of money each month. And what kind of things do you do from there to help them grow that? So
without saying too much, it's really different for each client. And that's another thing that I like to highlight when I meet with someone.
Diversify.
Well, also every meeting is different. So I'm going to have a meeting with someone today and I'm going to have a completely different strategy for them than the 24-year-old that I'm meeting at 5 p.m. So it's completely different. But some common denominator is that we really start at the bottom with everyone. So no matter if you're making $300,000 or $30,000, we're starting at that risk mitigation with each client. So do you have an emergency fund? Some people think they just have their retirement fund and no emergency fund and they think they're saving, but we save in different ways. There's, we like to say there's 4 different ways to save. So we want to make sure we're putting putting money in each bucket. Emergency fund is priority. Do we have debt? There's different types of debt and there's good debt and there's bad debt. People think all debt is bad. And again, that's how you grow up with money. So I meet with people and they're in their early 20s and all they want to do is pay off their credit card debt. All they want to do is pay off their student loan debt, but they have no emergency fund. Student loan debt is good debt to have. So it's just education. I don't really help with budgeting, but just knowing how you should allocate your paycheck each month, how much is going towards your expenses, how much is going towards your savings, and then how much is for that fun stuff. Because sometimes people, tend to put too much towards their plans and they don't have any money left over to do things to enjoy life. And I definitely incorporate that in every plan with my client as well.
So they're already coming to you with their own personal budget?
Sometimes, usually not. So I, have that initial call with my clients. I really just introduce myself, break that wall, tell them about my journey, hear about them and their goals. And then I'm all about seeing if there's synergy between the both of us. Because at the end of the day, I'm a business owner and I want to choose who I work with too. So I want to like my client. So if all those, if there's a need for planning and we have synergy, then we'll book another meeting and that's when I'll send a budget sheet. And it's, great for clients to complete because sometimes they don't even know what's really going in and out monthly. And then I'll give them an idea of, okay, what their savings capacity is. And that will help me plan with them. And then we really go from there depending on each person.
What is a trying to think how to word this. What is a big reason that you see that people want to avoid their finances? Like everybody makes money every day, everybody has a job, and we all need money to survive. But people come to you and you see some people who are like financially like it's crazy, right? I'm sure you see people who are like really in debt, don't do well with their finances, and so what are some traits or like reasons that people would be like that with their?
I think it's fear. I think a lot of people are afraid to speak to an advisor because they don't know and they feel like they're doing something wrong and they feel like it's going to be a judgment zone. And it's when you're working with me, it's not. I really aim to work with women. I work with a lot of people, but aim to work with women. And sometimes I meet with women and they're like, my husband has an advisor, but I don't like talking to him because he talks down to me and he puts things into a really complicated way. And so when I talk to you, I feel at ease and I feel like I'm being listened to. So I think a lot of it is fear. So either if they're in a really good scenario or in the really bad scenario, people are just afraid to talk about money. And that's why I like to be super transparent. And, thank you for having me on today, because I want to spread the word that these conversations don't have to be so scary and they can be kind of fun.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
Yeah, it's fun to learn these things.
Yeah.
And you're definitely not the financial advisor that I would be picturing in my head.
Yeah.
Right? So it's good. What do you feel were the experiences you had that led you into this role?
So I told you a little bit how I grew up with money, so wasn't really taught anything about money. I worked in LA for about 6 years after college. I was working with a lot of people in the entertainment industry. And it was great. Had a lot of connections, and I decided I want to change, and I really knew I wanted to help people. So it led me to having my own practice through Northwestern Mutual. I moved back to Boston, and a lot of my clients ended up being in the entertainment industry. But not only that, business owners, and those people aren't handed a book full of benefits. So even someone like you're a comedian, you don't work for a 9 to 5, you're not in that corporate world. So you don't have like all this stuff handed to you and retirement accounts set up. So there's a lot of need for planning with people in that world. So kind of bringing my experience in the entertainment industry and with financial planning, I found there's a big need and people just aren't approached in that way to help with their finances. So really the education factor with working with people in that world and really just helping really led me to it. And now I'm so happy I made this decision. So
yeah, it always feels good to help people, right? So
Yeah.
it must be inspiring to see people like see their growth and see them start to like get that financial discipline and start to really build some wealth. What were you doing in Los Angeles?
So I was a talent manager at an agency, helping actors, reality stars, all that.
Cool.
And then I worked in hospitality for a bit.
How is working with like reality stars?
It was interesting. It was interesting. I learned a lot about myself. But, I just learned that you just have to treat those people like normal. And you can't, even though I'm a huge Housewife fan and I kind of did fangirl out, I had to just treat them like a regular person. And I noticed with celebrities, they are drawn to you more when you're just treating them normal. You're not like bowing down. They were my clients, so I was very nice to them, but I wasn't treating them in any crazy way. And I think they respected that. So actually a lot of my clients in this now are in that world as well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So did people come back? I mean, I guess people go back and forth, but do you have any clients like from LA that you have back on the East Coast?
Yeah, I do. So like I said, people in the industry, they get, they've been working their ass off all their life, serving, bartending, whatever, side gigs. And then they book something huge and they come into all this money. And then they're like, what the hell do I do with it? Mm-hmm. And they could either spend it all and then they have to work for it again, or, they can work with someone and have a plan in place. And then of course, when you're in that world, it's 1099. So you're taxed on all of it and you have to have strategies in place. So I found that people in that industry are really drawn to working with a financial advisor, especially someone that they know. So I worked with those people, so they trust me already. So it's worked out in my favor. But there's a great world where it's needed.
That's what I was thinking too, because all the comedians I know and every artist and person I know that's not interested in having a career, they seem to have, I wouldn't say like a tough time, but you have like the toughest time because society is built for you to have a job and then like get a, consistent paycheck and then put that in a retirement fund. So somebody is working just working at a restaurant or working part-time. What's the best thing they can do if they're trying to save? But like to get enough to like, because I feel like if you want to go see a financial advisor, you have to have like a threshold in your mind. But would you say that people can come to you with like no money, or should somebody have like $1,000 or like $5,000?
Definitely income coming in.
Okay.
So definitely income coming in. As much as I want to help people, I can't really help people when they don't have money coming in.
Good job, recruiter.
But I would say, yeah, I mean, I help with strategies on saving. Ideally, I would love to have my clients that I'm meeting with for the first time already have something in place, have that little nest egg. But like I said, I want to help people, and people don't know any better. So really no threshold. Obviously, I'm trying to grow my business. So I do want to meet with people that, have an income in a certain capacity. But I work with also a lot of younger advisors on my team that if someone was maybe not making as much yet, I could pass them over to another advisor. Yeah.
So you have an advisory team that you're building?
Yeah, I'm working in leadership through my office. So I have people that are just starting out that, are willing to grow their businesses. But to answer your question on something that everyone should have is 3 to 6 months of expenses and emergency fund. Especially when you're in the entertainment world or you just, are working part-time and you don't have any benefits, 6 months would be ideal, because at a normal 9 to 5, you're getting, long-term disability if you're out of work, short-term disability. You don't have any of that. And your biggest asset is yourself. So I would say building up that emergency fund is number one before anything else.
Emergency fund is number one.
Yeah, as boring as that sounds, but I meet with people and they're like, oh, I want to invest and I want to do all this. And then we look at everything and they have no money in savings. And as much as I want to do what they want to do, I have to do what's best for the client. And I would never have someone invest with me if they didn't have an emergency fund in place. But that's what I help with, and strategies with that.
So you think that from your experience, people's financial discipline comes from their childhood, for the most part? Is that what you see? Is like the way their parents treated money is how they kind of tend to?
Definitely. I love this book. It's called The Psychology of Money. And yeah, it's either the complete opposite of what their parents did, or they mirror the same exact thing. So, I meet with people and their parents were so bad with money, credit card debt, bankruptcy. Now they're terrified to even have a credit card. And, you have to teach those people that credit card debt is actually not bad, but you have to, credit cards aren't bad. Credit card debt can be bad, but it's how you're using them. So some people are just straight up scared, and they're in their 30s and never have opened up a card before. So we talk through that. Or their parents were bad with credit cards, then they're really bad with credit cards. So talking about that, like, that's one of the first things I ask my clients, like, how did you grow up with money? What is your first memory of money? What is your first memory of money?
My first memory of money would probably be getting it as a gift, as in a card, something like that, and then spending it right away.
Yeah. I was the same way. Yeah.
It wasn't until I was probably in middle school and starting to make money at a paper route, and then was doing things around the neighborhood. My grandmother really was the one that kind of showed me about saving. She helped me open a bank account and was like, "Put your money in here." And I've always been good about saving, but I also like to spend.
Yeah.
So it's like I would amass a good amount of money and then be like, all right, I'm going to go buy something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you help people that are impulsive with their finances?
Yeah, I think, I always say too, a good financial plan is like a good diet. You need to have balance in all the areas. So if I just told you to go on a juice cleanse for a month long, it's not going to be sustainable. So if I told you to put all your money into savings, that's not going to work. You're going to pull from it. So we need to have balance. So my financial philosophies are 50% of your income going towards your fixed expenses. So things you can't live without: rent, car payment, etc. 30% towards your plan. And that's going to be different for each, stage of life. So that could be 30% just to savings, 30% to retirement, but breaking that up, that 30% towards an overall plan, and then 20% to the fun stuff, the miscellaneous. So going out, buying that, whatever you want. So I breaking it up, it feels better. And I never want to say you should hide all your money away and not spend it. I put getting my nails done into my plan. Like that's something that I want every month. And so I put that into my budget.
That's fun.
Yeah.
It's not even in the miscellaneous. Like I am getting my nails done.
Yeah.
50, 30, 20. Mm-hmm. I like it. Where does that come from? Are there different strategies? Like, is that did you learn that, or is that something that you came up with, or you find is?
Yeah, that's something I've learned from like my mentors and everything, and it just tends to work. Obviously, life is expensive, so your salary could not be great, and your expenses are high. So, I think like keeping it in that range, and going off on that. Like I meet with people and they're about to buy a house, and I say, okay, let's make sure your mortgage is going to be in that. And it's going to keep you in that at least 50 to 60 range of what your money's coming in. And then where can you, and I think the biggest thing of when I work with people is, you have all these goals. Are you willing to take some things out of your expenses? And that's really like how much you want or how fast you want to be successful in whatever your plans are. If that's buying a house, if that's paying off debt, I could give you all the tools, but it's really how much you want it. So yeah, I could say 20% is going towards fun stuff, but maybe you break it to 10% if you really want to make something happen. And I think that's something I, try to push my clients. I'm always trying to challenge my clients in ways.
Do you find that people start to save more, like when they save more? It's like motivating to see yourself build wealth. Like you're like, oh, I put away like 200, 300, 500, 5,000, 10,000.
Yeah, and definitely. And I think working with someone too, I say I'm a financial advisor, a coach, a therapist. Like I'm really all those things, because people are like, wow, like meeting with you, I'm excited to meet with you in 6 months and tell you how much my cards have been paid off, or tell you how much I have in savings now, because I motivate my clients and say, this is phase 1, but phase 2, we're going to do investments or other parts of your plan that tend to be a little more exciting than just saving. So it's motivating for clients, because if their goals are to invest, then I'm like, okay, well, once you get this emergency fund to this place, then we can talk about those things. So it is motivating, and to have someone else in your ear to coach you or to help you is great for my clients. And it's like having a therapist versus just like talking to your friend. It's way more effective when you're talking to a stranger or, a professional that can like help you and kind of be an accountability buddy. So than someone just like talking to their friend about budgeting.
Yeah, totally. And it's kind of a taboo in society to talk about money, right? I don't know if that's part of the plan to keep people oppressed, but I don't know. People don't like sit and talk to their friends casually about finances.
Yeah.
So I can see like them coming to you and feeling like relaxed, having a conversation and feeling a sense of relief, because you think about it. Everybody's thinking about money all the time. You're thinking about your bills. You're thinking about your payments. And it's nice to have somebody to bounce those things off of. Yeah.
And even, that's so right. And that's how I kind of grew up with money. No one really talked about it openly. But even meeting with people that are about to get married, I always say, let's meet just you and I first, and then I'll also meet with your fiance separately. And it's good to be financially independent, and then we can merge things together once, you're married. That's how my husband and I did things. And now we're in a great place because we'll both have our own plans, but now it's merged together. Because it's the truth. So many I don't know the actual statistics, but like so many divorces tend to be because of money problems. So even relationship aspects with, money and just making sure you're feeling good and talking it out is so healthy.
So unfortunately, finances are probably the biggest problem and part of a relationship besides two people just loving each other. Mm-hmm. So what is something you see when newlyweds are getting married that is difficult for them to try and get through?
I think just dealing with each other's concept of money. My husband and I grew up completely different with money. He wasn't really given much, and so he has like a completely different concept of money than I do. So we had to navigate that. And I think just, you're getting married, and, I just got married in September, so I'm like very like knowledgeable in this like area, but like, how much money do you put down? Or is family helping? do we have to have all that money in cash? Like, what do we need to do? And there's a lot of, I mean, to be completely honest, there was a lot of, little tiffs that I had with my husband, my family, just for planning a wedding, because it's so much that goes into it. And then you're thinking about your future with them, and just money just tends to make people tense. So that's something I tried to alleviate with my clients and have these conversations earlier. But then there's also another side of it. So not getting married, but then, we do a lot on like long-term care with people. So, you could have a great plan, but your parents get sick. What usually happens? The kids take care of the parents. Then that's a financial burden for the kids. We've heard stories, people taking out of their retirement accounts, taking money out of savings, taking money out of their house. So you don't have a plan in place. So there's a lot of family dynamics, a lot of it that just comes through with money. So just making sure you're in a good place. And I think that's another concept that people don't really think about. Like, what's going to happen when my parents get older? Who's going to be taking care of them? Is there a plan in place?
That's true. Yeah, it's definitely a vital part of it, because, you're both bringing parents into the situation as well. So that's a lot of parents to be taking care of. Money is funny.
It is. I always say too, there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. So like anyone can be rich. So anyone could find a job, make, whatever you think rich is to you, and make a lot of money. But being wealthy is the key. And, just to tell you a little bit about myself, like, so my grandfather owned a really famous restaurant on the North Shore growing up, and he had a lot of success.
Can you say the name of it?
Hilltop Steakhouse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, he...
Good steak.
Yeah, really great steak. Sign's still there. But, I believe, and I mean, I believe that he worked really hard and we were able to have really great things. But if he worked with an advisor that really knew him and knew his family, I think our family could have been way better off. And that's not a dig to anyone. It's just fact of working with an advisor that really knows you and who you are, and just having a lot of strategy. So like every plan that I create for a client is really specific to them. So, and I'm thinking about them and their future kids and their future family and their future home, because I know that those are their goals, and my brain is rambling and like I'm thinking about all these things. And right now, maybe we're just focusing on a savings, but in my head and with my team, I'm focusing on everything else, because I really like to say my relationship with clients is 30 year plus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And sorry, I'm talking with my hands. I'm Italian.
No, it's great. It's not. I'm sorry. No, just make yourself comfortable. It's good. So that's interesting.
I mean, I haven't gone there yet.
Yeah, that's good. That'd be impressive if you had some 30-year clients. But that's another thing I didn't think about, to like sit down with somebody and be like, okay, we're going to be in cahoots for the next 30 years. Let's get this going. Yeah.
And I think that's the great thing about being a young advisor. Like I'm, in my late 20s. People have advisors that they have through their family, but they're eventually going to retire, and they'll maybe pass you off to someone else on their team. So to really create these relationships with my clients, and, I've only been doing it for about a year and a half now, but I have clients that call me up and, maybe I'm the 10th call, but they're like, we're having a baby. And so their plan's going to change. And that's amazing that I can be that person that they come to, and exciting life changes happen, because then we'll meet, we'll update things, we'll make sure things are in place, and we go from there. But yeah, I want to be that person for my clients. I'm not going anywhere. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you work with anybody in the military?
So my husband is a veteran. So
cool.
Yeah, I work with a few.
What branch was he in?
Army. Were you in the?
Yeah, I was in the Air Force.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What did he do? Do you know?
No, but I know he was in Kuwait. Yeah.
So there's a lot of people come into the military. Most people join the military to better their life, right? They want to serve their country, better their life. So a lot of people had never had a steady paycheck, never made any money, and then all of a sudden you're getting this paycheck. So like the stereotype is you go buy this, like buy a Dodge Charger, and then you have like crazy debt and like a huge APR, annual percentage rate, right?
Yep.
And so people just are reckless with their finances, but then some people are really disciplined. So like you would see guys that would be like, hey, like look at my savings, or like some people who have been in like 20 years, they'd be like, look, I I have over $1 million in this account from actually actively investing and putting money away. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, so my husband, he like was in the military and then he just got a check and then he went into like the restaurant industry where you don't get handed any benefits. So he was never taught anything. He was in the Army at 18 and then got out and then was, working in restaurants and, making a decent check, but he wasn't getting set up for the future for retirement. I mean, there's a lot of, benefits with being in the military. Also like the education again is not there. It's like the same thing as being in like the entertainment industry. I just think.
Yeah, they don't show you. They try a little bit, but it's not as like clear cut as that.
Yeah.
As it could be or should be. But I mean, it is also your own personal responsibility to do the right thing with your finances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But most people don't want to. It's so tied into like our reward system in our brains, and America is such a like spend money society and culture that it's more fun to be financially impulsive than it is to.
Yeah. And it's just so hard to keep up with all the trends of everything. And like, you're scrolling through Instagram and there's a million ads and I'm guilty to it. Like I click on it and then I'm like, oh, should I buy that? It's so hard to keep up. And I think, just again, like with myself, like I got a credit card at 18, didn't know. I just thought I could put money on it. And I guess I didn't have a plan in place for when I had to pay that bill. And then you're like, oh shit, I have all this money in debt, credit card debt. I don't know like how to pay it off or any strategies. And then you're trying to like Google things and then you just don't know. So yeah, I mean, everyone should have a financial advisor. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's important to have these like just ask questions. I have clients that are like, I'm so scared, like I'm embarrassed to ask you these questions, I feel stupid. I'm like, this is a judge-free zone, like ask me anything, because like I said, no one teaches you, so I'm here to help.
Do you feel like it's like that on purpose? Do you think that like these financial institutions have a barrier for entry to keep people intimidated and confused?
I hope not, but yeah, I think yeah. And I think
well, we're happy that you're here to help us.
Yeah, and I think it's just
world.
Generational too. Like I think it's hopefully going to get better and better. But like my mom versus my grand, like it's, it was used to be like so hush hush about money. For the longest time, women like, I mean, I never really saw a financial advisor even as a woman, and people being financially independent. So, yeah, I mean, I am all about like empowerment and making yourself like feel good with your finances independently, and yeah, there just wasn't a space for it. So
yeah, I feel like it's much more popular now, and with the power of the internet and social media, you see that too. Like I never, like growing up, you just like you see rich people and you think like, oh, that would be cool, but you don't realize it's like an attainable thing.
Yeah.
But if you implement a strategy and you have the right plan and then the right things happen from that, you can actually achieve a new level of financial success.
Yeah. And I see things all the time. Like I'm like on, Instagram, and there's all these accounts about money mindset and stuff. And there was like two different people, someone that was making $60K a year and someone that was making $150K a year. And the person making 60 was going to retire earlier, had more in savings and was set up. 150K wasn't. And so, yeah, obviously the more money you make, the more you can do things with, but doesn't necessarily, that's not like a game changer because it's how you're set up. So I mean, with people that have all this money, but then they have all this credit card debt. So it's like a balancing act. So I think it's never too early to start. You don't have to have this threshold of when you need to start saving or investing. Obviously there's things that need to be in place before that, but yeah, I mean, anyone can do it. It's just how you do it and if you have a plan in place.
Have you seen people being successful on their own? Like with the like Robinhood app is a very popular way to like kind of invest, and then there's like Acorn is like doing like penny funds. So do people come to you with those? Like, have they amassed like a good amount?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they have money in that and like Bitcoin and everything. But we want to have diversity, and so just giving them education on other ways to save, things that aren't tied to the market, things that are. And then again, not to like repeat myself, but like I meet with people that they have all this money in their Acorns app, but they don't have any emergency fund. So what are you going to do when something happens? It's just all strategy for each person. So we want to, it's like a pie. You want to have like different pieces of the pie. You don't want to have all your money in one area or all your money just in cash. Like we want to be diverse.
So it's like high risk, low risk, medium risk, right?
Yeah.
In the market.
Yeah. And just having, different strategies for different things. So we want to have money for the short term. We want to have money for the midterm. We want to have money for the long term. And then we also want to have money for retirement. So ideally, we want to be like 5% in each bucket. And that's just like some of the education I do with my clients. So I have like this page that I show them. So when you work with me, you'll fill out a budget. We'll go over that together. We'll go over some of your work benefits. And that's another thing. When you do have work benefits, sometimes you're just handed them and you don't know what the hell you're doing, what the match is, what is a match, what is this? So we go through that together, and then we'll see a plan for that phase 1 of planning. So we would go through like a whole like summary of what I'm suggesting for now and some financial planning philosophies. And then we'll implement some of those strategies. And then I usually meet with my clients every 6 months, but sometimes clients want to meet quarterly or monthly.
And what is a match? Like when you work for a company, they match a retirement fund, right? So it's usually like 1% to like 3%.
Yeah. So they match up they say like we match up to 6%. So if you put 6%, they match 6%. So I like to say it's free money. Take advantage of that for sure.
What is the incentive for a company to do that for their clients?
They want them to stay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess that works.
Yeah.
Give them money.
Because usually there's a certain time that you have to be at that company for you to actually get that match. Work retirement accounts are great. Like I said, it's free money if they're matching. Sometimes there's not that vesting schedule, but, then also having retirement accounts on your own and then having liquid investments and not like there's just so much that you want to make sure you're being strategized with. But I would say in the beginning, if you're young and you don't have that savings, just do your work retirement account and then build up that emergency fund. And then we go on to phase 2.
Emergency fund.
Yeah.
Do you have any clients that live in their cars?
No, I don't.
Not even when you lived in LA? Oh, it's different. You were doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
I imagine you had some
Actors that
you
are
might have had some that you didn't know about. I knew that's the most people I ever knew that lived in their cars was in LA.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't.
It's very casual. People were like not like I don't know. I feel like maybe if it was somebody doing it out here, they'd be like hiding it, but it'd probably be different too. Like they're not trying to be an actor if they're living in their car out here.
Yeah, so. I had a really good friend that lived in a van with a guy for like 6 months during COVID.
So he lived in a van and had a roommate.
Oh, you did?
No, you said your friend. So.
Yeah, and they broke up. Though.
Okay. Oh, dang. And then they still live together?
No.
That would be
They
tough.
broke up. I mean,
Tough
living in a
times.
van cross country is tough. But yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Like, there's so many ways that you can. I mean, people work from home. So there's a lot of like flexibility with like how to make money now, and how people work.
So what inspired you to make the switch? So what did you go to college for?
I went to college for communications.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you moved to LA.
Yeah.
And you were working in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And so what inspired you to make the switch from entertainment to finance?
Yeah. So I was working after entertainment. I worked in hospitality. I was working in event planning. And then, I just was got the opportunity. Like I saw a job posting and I knew I wanted to be in like some sort of sales, which I hate to even say on this like platform because I don't like to say I'm in sales, but it is a concept of sales. So I was so
is banking.
Yeah. And I was intrigued by that. And then I started really learning about my specific opportunity and where I'm at. So I work in an office. My mentor is a female. She was the first female advisor at, the Boston office of Northwestern Mutual. So really inspiring, really woman empowerment. Like it really made me realize that maybe I don't have experience in the financial world, but I know I'm really good with people and I know people listen and want to have conversations with me and sometimes feel safe. So I feel like I'd be really good at this. So that just led me to doing what I'm doing now. But I think, and that's what translates into my clients. So my clients meet with me and, most of them are women and they're like, wow, I never thought, working with an advisor was like this. And that's how I felt when I came into this career, when I looked at my mentor and I was like, wow, I didn't think a financial advisor was someone like you. So I'm really trying to just break all those barriers. And it was really inspiring to work alongside other women in this industry because it's just such a male dominated industry.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you found your niche.
I did.
Niche.
Yeah, I
Which one
did.
is
And
it?
I love what I do. And I tried to spread the word that these conversations aren't, so scary. I think the hardest part sometimes is like getting someone on the phone and then, sometimes, most of the time, I like to say that when someone's on the phone with me and we're on Zoom or we're meeting in person, they're really interested. I think it's just the fear of having that first conversation that can be scary. So
Absolutely. I agree.
yeah.
I
My
feel
first
like-
conversation's like 15 to 20 minutes with people. And then we see if there's synergy and then we just go from there.
Yeah. They must feel a sense of relief after that too.
Yeah. They're like, oh shit, like this is not what I was expecting. Like it's not a bunch of like financial jargon that I have no idea what she's talking about. I'm just myself. And I think people are drawn to that. And I think there needs to be more of that.
What is the most common type of debt that people have?
Credit card debt and student loan debt. Yeah.
And you said a student loan debt it doesn't affect your credit score, or like why is it good debt?
It does affect your score, but it's student loan debt, so it's like tends to be it's better to have because you went to school. So it's an asset. It's not necessarily like a bad debt to have. You're helping your credit score for, paying off that loan. So those healthy monthly payments are going to build your score.
Oh, okay.
And then also there's so much room for forgiveness, especially with federal loans. So, obviously if they're in a good place and your interest rate is in a good place, we like to say under 6% is good debt, then you're fine. I would not be running to pay off all your student loan debt. If it was private, if it was, an outrageous interest rate and you had, then I would say maybe that's your priority. But if you're in your early 20s and you have some student loan debt, do not stress about it. Shouldn't be your number one priority.
That's good.
Yeah. I think credit card debt is something
credit card debt is brutal. Somewhat.
Yeah, it's really brutal. But I think there's strategy with that too and how to pay that off. And but that is something that I always say, like, let's get that off. Any bad debt we want off before we get into investments. So having strategies with that, working with someone, having that accountability, education, that's key. And, your credit score is something that, opens a lot of doors for you. So I always love meeting with people that are already using their credit cards as a debit card. That's ideal. Not shying away from credit cards fully, but using them as a debit card, paying them off in full.
Yeah, and watching your credit score go up.
I think the first thing you look at when you look at any kind of debt is that interest rate. So that's going to kill you the most. So 6% interest rate and lower, you're in a good place. Anything higher, that's when it's really affecting your score. So ideally with credit cards, we want to pay them off in full. But if you can't do that, then you want to be way over that minimum monthly.
Do you find that most people don't use credit cards correctly?
Yes. They're using it for those big purchases. And then, I want to go shopping. I'm going to put on my credit card. Then it's just rolling into, more and more debt. Then you're paying the interest. And like, I meet with people and they're just paying the minimum. And then they're like, yeah, I pay off some and then it goes down. And then I get charged the minimum. I get charged the interest. And then it just, you're never gonna get that off. So, having a 0% credit card, doing a balance transfer, that's a great scenario for people. If your score is in a good place, that's like ideal. That's like my number one suggestion. If you have credit card debt to do a balance transfer, that would be ideal. Second strategy would maybe be like the snowball method, which I think it's a good strategy, but
What is the snowball method?
that's paying all your so look at all your credit cards. Which one has the highest interest? You're going to pay that off like first. So higher payments with that. So say the minimum's 100, but you're going to pay 500 a month on that one. And then the others, you'll just pay the minimums and then you'll get that first one down. One down, rip it up, don't use it. That's the key also with credit card debt. I meet with people and they're like paying off their cards, but then they end up using it again because now the balance went down. So we don't want to use the credit cards when we're paying them off. But then, yeah, you go to the next highest interest rate and then you go from there.
So predatory.
Yeah, it is.
Did they always exist? Do you know? Like with their credit cards and like that? 1800s sometimes.
I
Well, they
don't
wouldn't
think
have,
that.
actually, you're right. They didn't have the
Yeah,
machine.
I don't
right?
think
So
that far ago.
that was a terrible question.
But I mean, there's no education, and it's
Clearly.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do you get in your mail like promotions for credit cards? Oh, if you, go from the normal card to platinum, and then you get more points back, and then it's just crazy. And then especially with the holiday season, there's so many promotions, but it's a trap, like it really is. And then that's how you want to create good habits. Because I also meet with people that are just so scared of debt. And then they're scared because they're scared of debt. They're scared to invest. And then they're scared to put their money anywhere but in cash. And then it's just, it's an effect. So really money mindset and creating healthy habits is key. It's got to build up your confidence with money. It's got to build up everything. That's the biggest thing.
Positive, productive financial habits.
Yeah. And that's why keeping the things that you love to do in your plan. Nothing's going to be sustainable if you're just going to be putting all your money into savings or all your money into your debt. Obviously, if you have a lot of credit card debt, we want to pay that off as soon as we can, but you have to be, smart with it. So I meet with people and they put all this money into savings monthly, and they're so proud of that. But then after looking at everything, they tell me, well, I put $1,000 a month into my savings, but only $500 is actually staying in there. That other $500 is going back into my checking and going towards my bills. So then I say to them, okay, it's great that you want to put $1,000 into savings, but let's be realistic and let's do things that are going to really work for you. Because there is a thing of like saving too much and then you have nothing left over for your daily life. And then, then it's hard to do everything. So just that's why strategies and meeting with someone that kind of knows what's going to work for you and how you work with money and, is important.
Excellent. Well, Francesca, thank you for all of this advice.
Of course.
I don't think I ever would have sat down with a financial advisor otherwise. So
Yeah, I'm glad.
been
Thank you
good.
for having me.
And where can people find you?
Yeah. So I have a business Instagram that's growing. So not many followers, but it's Francesca Talks Money on Instagram. And then my personal is francesca.borthwick. And you can find me there. And also, I think my email will be in the show
we'll
notes
put all
and
the-
everything.
in the
Yeah.
description, yeah.
So awesome. Thank you for
Excellent.
having me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right.